Welcome to the Nerd Review. This is the show where we talk about movies, TV shows, video games, new and retro, books, and comic books. You're listening to episode 3, the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle special. This is a hybrid episode, so if you head on over to the Nerd Review at YouTube, you can watch the video game capture from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 2003 game for the Game Boy Advance. I've captured the first two levels of Michelangelo, so each character, that's Michelangelo, Leonardo, Donatello, and Raphael, have 4 levels apiece for a total of 16 levels. Each level is fairly hard. The first level takes about over 12 minutes. Definitely died a few times and had to retry the stages. There's some difficulty settings, so we're playing on normal for now. And let's jump right on in. So if you're joining us from YouTube, you're currently looking at the startup screen from the TMNT 2003 game. This game was part of the relaunch of the TMNT, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise. The game is produced by Konami, which made a lot of games of tie-in licenses series at the time. It follows the same premise as this series, the TV series, from also 2003. So let's take a look at the intro from the video game now. Ninja Turtles! Mutant chain reaction, living underground, digital action. Now, isn't that a great little intro? So if you're listening on the podcast, that intro is a bit short. It's a shortening of the TMNT TV series from 2003, the exact same series. It's part of a franchise reboot, and it uses the same character designs, the same music, and it's a great intro. In my opinion, I was in 2003. I was 9 years old, so a little bit of a historian fact of the nerd of me. I was 2003. In 2003, I was 9 years old, so basically target demographic for a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles relaunch, and part of that relaunch was the TV series, the video game, and in my opinion they do a great job on intro music. It's a real song, they get a band, they get some real music production, and just like the intros of the 80s is basically explaining the premise of the show. If you've never seen the 80s show, if you're new to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle world, the intro is basically just a rundown of, these are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, watch out for Shredder, and it's great fun. So, let's give that a listen to now. This is the intro from the TMNT series, so the entire intro now. That's what we're going to listen to, and if you're joining us from YouTube, we'll give that a quick watch. Chain reaction, living underground, digital action, it's a shell of a town. Turtles count it off, live by the code of the martial arts. Never fight unless someone else starts. Always stick together no matter what. If all else fails, then it's time to kick butt. A fantastic watch that was. That was a great intro. It's probably the second best intro in my opinion. Obviously, the original TMNT series has the honor of the best TMNT intro. It was designed to completely introduce the characters, all the new characters at the time, when TMNT was first launching. So that was the best intro. But in a close tie, this is the runner-up. This is the second best intro, and I really appreciate the nostalgic approach for me. There's definitely a level of nostalgia involved in that rating of the second best, TMNT intro, and just what a great time. Take a moment and just what a great time in childhood history and in the history of kids entertainment. It was 2003, and this was airing. That TV series was airing on 4Kids, which had great, amazing series for kids. There were so many relaunches happening. They were bringing back a lot of old series, which introduced them to myself and so many other fans out there. In my opinion, a great reason why so many of these series and these characters are still around today. One of the best, the easiest to mention would be Sonic. He had also a relaunch in 2003 for Sonic X, which also had a great intro. Another series from the time was Kirby. That was a great intro too, and a pretty long run series as well. Kirby just had another game that just released on the Switch, which is doing amazing, Kirby and the Dreamland. or The Forgotten Dreamline, I believe is the title of that one. I have that on my Switch, and I've been playing it to much enjoyment. Another series from the time that is probably one of the most popular and is still popular to this day would be Yu-Gi-Oh! It was playing on 4Kids at the time. I believe it had just been imported. It had just been edited for North American audiences, and all of these shows just had amazing intros too. So that's my main point. Intros. I'm a huge nerd for intros, the theme music, theme songs. A good minute and a half or something. Get a real band in there and record some good music, some good intro music. So in that spirit, let's listen or watch along, depending on if you're on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you can watch these great intros here that I have for you. And I'll say it again, amazing intros. They're so memorable. There's so much nostalgia around those intros. It was an amazing year to be a kid, and some amazing kids' entertainment was happening in those years, in my opinion, in my totally biased opinion, having been, again, 9 years old and the target audience for most of this content that was being created. So let's jump into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Obviously, they've been around since 1984. I won't spend too much time on the history. There is so much great content out there in terms of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle documentaries. They're available on Netflix. There's part of the kids, the toys who made us. I think there's an episode from the movies who made us. I highly recommend both of these series. They're so informative. There's so much great information. So we'll quickly touch on the beginnings, if you will, of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Obviously, it's from Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They created the characters originally as a spoof. It was a spoof of multiple Marvel properties, and that's where they came up with the Foot and the ninjas and the turtles and all of that. It was a spoof, and it became one of the most successful comic books of the time. Originally, it was in black and white. It wasn't until the toy line, the action figure line, that added colorization, and they needed color for the animated series that would promote the action figures, that amazing animated series that would start in 1988. And that was also when they added the colorized masks. So originally, like I said, it was black and white. And then the colorized versions at the time were just all red masks. So Green Turtles with all red masks. And they had their names, obviously, Leonardo, Donatello, and so forth and so on. But it wasn't until the colors that the toys came out that the producers and the creators of the action figures said that they needed a better way of identifying them visually. So that's when they changed the colors. They kept red for Raphael because it was the favorite of the artists, and they liked the color on the character. They thought he represented the red. He's angry. He has his rage issues, which has been a part of multiple narrations, different versions of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Raphael is always the angry one. He has the most anger to deal with. So from there, we'll jump into the 2003 relaunch of the title, the reimagining. They've updated all the images, the character images look new. They're fresh. I really enjoy these issues. These episodes, not the issues. While there is a tie-in comic book, though, there's the tie-in comic book, the TV series, and these video games. So there's a lot of content in this relaunch. And so we're covering the game that was part of this relaunch. Now, the game was released for PS2, Xbox, GameCube, PC, and Game Boy Advance, though I only played the Game Boy Advance release back in the day, and that's part of why I wanted to cover it today. It was very nostalgic, playing it all again, and it brought back a lot of good memories of playing my Game Boy Advanced. This time I played on an emulator, and that's what I used to capture the footage. So if we jump into the game a bit, so the Game Boy Advance version is a regular beat-em-up platform game. It's a 2D side-scroller with some really well-done vehicle mini-game levels, which are my personal favorite. The one with Michelangelo, he's going to jump on his skateboard. That's going to be my top favorite. So Now, as I said before, the plot roughly follows part of season one. They give a bit of the information, the bit of the dialogue up front in the intro, which will be part of the coverage in a moment. The Mouser robots, they've found the turtles again. They recently destroyed their home. And so the story is broken down into basically it follows 3 points. So they've been tracked down again, and they use the Mouser robots. They follow them back to their factory because they are always poorly programmed and always lead them back to Mr. Stockman, who, once his factory has been destroyed, will destroy his factory. The turtles destroy his factory. He turns to the Shredder and he gives them their tech. The Shredder uses this tech to, kidnap Raphael to force a confrontation with the turtles. This always ends poorly. In this case, it'll end poorly if you're good enough to, beat the Shredder. It also includes Casey Jones and the Purple Dragons. If you're familiar with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know who these characters are and the backstory here. It's very similar to the TV show, and they did a good job adapting that, and it's fun getting to play through the levels in that regard. And now, if you're joining us from YouTube, I'm on the menu selection screen, and we're going to be playing on normal. And as I said before, the intro to the game gives us some information of the story up front. I'm going to select Michelangelo. That's the character that I enjoy the most. And we're going to go speedily through here as the introduction plays out. I've increased the playback, so it gives us some of the information. They've been found. There's something on the security cameras, and we see a creature run by. It's a bioengineered creature that was made by the Stockman Laboratories, and they move on into the lab, and there's a big hole punched in, and we go on through, and in through there we start off as Michelangelo, and they've been spotted by the Foot. The Foot show up as they're investigating, and that's where the game really picks up, and we start playing the first stage. We're in the train stations. Michelangelo, there was a hole punched in the wall by the monster that they're tracking, and they go into the train tracks, and that's when the foot soldiers show up. And so we're fighting our way through the foot soldiers now, and some of the staff from Baxter Stockman's laboratories. We're right underground. That right above us is where he's manufacturing his Mousers, and he's working for the Foot, which we'll find out in one of the small animated cutscenes, or pictographic cutscenes, I should say. The limitations of these Game Boy games was quite hilarious. They would just cut together some images from maybe the TV series, like we saw in the intro. So as we make our way through these train stations, we're fighting more of the henchmen. So we got some bows and arrows, I think, in here, and some swords. They'll throw these little grenade bombs, which I think unfairly don't affect them. If the little grenade bomb goes off and one of their own guys is standing in it, they don't get knocked over. But if I'm standing in it, I definitely get knocked over and lose some health. And you'll see every now and then there's a little green canister. It's supposed to be the green canister from the ooze. That's your health, your re-health. I find that pretty amusing. You just cover their. I suppose they're covering themselves in green ooze now, and to recapture their health. I should say. Getting a little tongue-tied there. So right, we're gaining our health. We're regaining health from the ooze canisters, the ooze canisters, which are, if you know your TMNT lore, that's from TGRI. That's the ooze that gave the turtles life. So I like the inclusion that's in the video game. This is how we get our health back. And so at this point, we're making our way through the first stage. We've cleared a few areas, and we're coming up to what I find very amusing is a stage. We're supposed to be on the subway platform in New York City, this version of New York City, and one of the level elements is you have to jump from side to side, and if you fall down, you have to jump back and forth along the walls, which is a very standard game element. But the implication here is that the train tracks are broken in multiple sections, which I just find quite hilarious, in the sense that I hope there are no trains running on this track, which there don't appear to be. Maybe it was they couldn't have that in this game, and in some other games there's a tracker. Periodically there might be a train that comes by, but they don't have that in this game, and it's probably a good thing because, well, the tracks are broken. And so at this point, we're coming up to the end of the recording, so I'm jumping around through these levels here, and you can see there's electricity at the bottom. I think I get electrocuted at one point, and this becomes the harder portion of the level. So this is going to be the end of TMNT Special 1. We didn't get to my favorite level, but we'll definitely cover that in the next TMNT Special. There's so much fun stuff to cover. I'm currently reading the IDW comic books, and there's just an amazing amount of TMNT content. So this has been the TMNT 2003 game. We've covered the first level. Definitely in the next episode, we're going to cover level 2 and probably all the stages that include vehicles, and that's 4 stages. So each of the turtles has one vehicle stage. So my favorite is Michelangelo's. He's riding his skateboard down the sewer tunnel. You have to avoid some obstacles, grab coins. That's basically the same against all 4 of those stages, but each stage is a different turtle with a different vehicle. So Michelangelo, you got the skateboard. Raphael, he's on the shell cycle. Leonardo, he's in the shell hovercraft, and Donatello has I think it's just a wing glider, or probably the shell wing glider, which are all contraptions and vehicles that Donatello makes throughout the series, the first season of the series, which the game is, like I've said, the game is adapting the first, if I looked up it correctly, it's the first few episodes, or a few episodes of the first season. That's what's being loosely adapted here for this game. So that'll definitely be the next TMNT special. And until that next TMNT special rolls around, I have a lot of things on the schedule. I am in the process of putting down some interviews, some co-hosted episodes. Most likely the next movie review will be for Super Mario Bros. The movie from 1993, an amazing cinematic masterpiece, so I've been told. And honestly, I'm not sure how much sarcasm that statement should have because I've never seen the movie, but I've gotten a lot of mixed reviews. I've looked at the different Metacritic reviews and the IMDb reviews and the Rotten Tomato, and well, the percentages, they're not high. So I'm looking forward to watching this movie and sitting down, hopefully with a close friend, and giving this movie a good review. A good review in the sense of it's a good spirited review. I don't know if I will give it a good review. It might be not a good review. We'll see. That's in store. So all in all, that will be the next episode most likely. And this has been episode 3, TMNT Special 1. We were covering the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Game Boy Advance game from 2003, part of the 2003 relaunch of one of my personal favorite series and franchises, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So this has been episode 3 of the Nerd Review. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. You can find me on Instagram, on RSS, on TikTok, Discord, YouTube, The Nerd Review podcast. I've launched all of my social media, so I hope you check in and leave a review. You can find me on the website, thenerdreview.ca. All of these are now up and active, so I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope you've enjoyed the past shows, and I hope you come back and check out the next episode. So this has been The Nerd, and this is The Nerd signing off.